All right, this is the second video to kind of go along with factoring trinomials when you have a leading coefficient of 1. Remember, your leading coefficient is your coefficient in front of your squared term, right? So we have this ax squared plus bx plus c, right? And when you that's your leading coefficient, right? That's your leading coefficients, right? And that's when it's 1 is when it looks bare, right? There's not a number in front of it. And so all the examples we're looking at in this series of videos um, are all going to have 1 for that. All right. So what we discussed in the last video is what we're doing is we're doing something called the AC method. And the AC method is when you multiply your number in front of this, in front of your a squared, so your coefficient for your a squared, and your c. And we call the coefficient for the a squared a. So we're going to multiply a and c together, and we call that AC. And when we get that, we're going to figure out what two factors, right, that work for that product to give us this right here, and that will add up to give us B, right? So let's just get started. So AC, so we're going to go 1 times -9, which is -9, right? So this is my target number. This is what I want my my two numbers to multiply up to. All right. So if you have a negative product, right? The only way you can get a negative product is by multiplying a negative and a positive number when you're dealing with two numbers, right? There's no way to do it with two positives. There's no way to do it with two negatives. They have to be opposite, right? So when you do that, it gets a little tricky, right? But we'll show you how to do it. All right. So factors of -9 are 1 and -9. All right. And then you also have -1 and 9. And then we have 3 and -3. And then you would have -3 and 3. And obviously, when the numbers are kind of the same, it doesn't matter. You don't need to write them down twice. But so now what we're going to do is we're going to add these together and see which of these gives us this +8 that we're looking for. So we know they multiply together to give us the C, right? And then I want to add them up and see which ones give me that B term. Well, 1 and -9, if you add them up, is -8. If you add -1 and +9, you get 8. And then if you add these, you get 0. Well, the one we're looking for is this guy right here, right? Because we want +8 because that's what it is. That's what B is. So what we're going to do is we're going to rewrite this. We're going to go a squared. We're going to grab this coefficient. We're going to go minus, and I'm just going to write it down. Normally I would just write -a, but we'll put the 1 there just so we can see it, right? And then plus 9a minus 9. And now next step is we are going to factor by grouping. Okay, so we're going to take a factor out of these two and a factor out of these two and see if we get a common shared factor. Well, I can pull an a out of these two, and that's about it. I get a minus 1. Usually on these, it's not like any earth-shattering factoring going on. It's usually pretty simple. 9a and -9, you can pull out a +9, and then you get a minus 1, right? So, wonderful. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to realize that we do have that common factor there. So that means you can get an a minus 1 out of both of them, and that leaves you with what I like to call the leftovers. That leaves you with a plus 9. So now I have two binomial factors, a minus 1 and a plus 9, that when multiplied together, and like terms combined, will give me this. So, pardon me, big yawn there. Getting kind of late here. So that's how that works, guys. All right. So let's split this up. All right. Let's do another one here. So we got negative 21 times 1 is negative 21, so that's my target number. That's AC, right? A is 1, C is negative 21. Multiply them together, you get negative 21. And these, most of these, you can just look at that. You don't even need to multiply it by 1 because we all know what happens when you multiply by 1. All right, so now we're going to look at factors of negative 21 and write those down. So we got negative 1 and 21. Then we have 1 and negative 21. All right. And then 2 obviously doesn't go in. 3 does, right? And so let's do negative 3 and positive 7, and then positive 3 and negative 7. And then 4 doesn't go in, 5 doesn't go in, 6 doesn't go in, 7 goes in, but it's this one. And when you hit one that you already did, but it's reversed, that means that you're pretty much run out of factors. So these are really the only 2 sets of factors, just with the different permutations with the positive and the negative. And so when I add these up, negative 1 and 21 is 20, and then 1 and negative 21 is negative 20, and then negative 3 and 7 is positive 4, and then 3 and negative 7 is negative 4. And you'll notice that all these, they're always just basically the opposite. So the one we want is, we want a b of negative 4. So this is our guy right here, okay? So let's rewrite this as x squared plus 3x, and I got the plus 3 from this first factor, right? And then minus 7x, so we got our negative 7 right there, and then x, and then minus 21, and then we're going to factor by grouping, right? So we're going to factor in x out of these first 2, and then put what's left inside the parentheses. And we're going to go minus 7, and we're going to go x. And then because we're winding up with a negative for our 21, we got to have a plus sign there. And then that gives me that common factor that we want, right? So that gives me the x plus 3. So we have x plus 3. And then what's left is x minus 7. And we have a fully factored set of binomials that we can use later on when we talk about this to solve. All right, so that's how these work. We're going to stop the video here, and then the next couple videos are going to be on sort of like special cases of binomials and trinomials for quadratics. All right, so thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you in the next one.